Boys, we are back. 2023. I've missed you guys so much. I'm so excited.
I know it's been too long.
Felt like forever.
MG, how you going, man? Let's get a little bit of an update. How was your Xmas break?
Oh man, it was awesome, man. I we went away to two different places. Went up to Inverloch and then up to Yarrawonga. We did a week each with me's family and my family. It was just so good, man. Different gyms, train every morning, same routine every day. Wake up, have a meal, digest, train, straight to the beach, jump in because it's so hot. It's like a warehouse, right? It's like mine. So you get really sweaty. Straight to the beach, jump in. Message me's dad to meet me there. We have 5 minute swim back to the house. Second meal, straight back and have a nap, man. Every day.
Oh, that's life. That is the
That
life.
is the life.
That is
So
awesome, man.
just
How
awesome,
about you,
man.
Scotty?
Yeah, it was good, man. We didn't really get away. We unfortunately, as I sort of said to you before, we had a bit of COVID floating around on Christmas Day at our function, but thankfully no one in my immediate family got it. But we've just been sort of hanging around. We spent a bit of time in Torquay over the weekend. Otherwise, just sort of been ticking along. But it's good to be back and to see you boys because we haven't caught up in ages. We're actually just talking before we're going to schedule in a Suva on Friday, which I'm very, very excited about.
Yes,
It's happening.
Suvo is this Friday. Scott's coming down. Gluten-free Suvo. Going to be his first Suvo. We're definitely going to capture it for sure.
Well,
Yeah, you definitely have to get some footage. So hopefully it lives up to, I have no doubt it will, to all the hype. But no, I'm just pumped to be back. I feel like, because it's a little bit quieter over here at this time of year, but just pumped for a big year. 2023, it's hard to believe it's come around. It's going to be a big year, so just excited to get into it, man.
Can't wait, man. And we're just talking about catching up on Sunday at Iron Kingdom in Preston before the ICN workshop. So we're going to hit up a training session before the workshop. So if anyone is down and free on Sunday, this Sunday, at about 11:30, we're going to get there to train, and then the workshop's at 1 o'clock for the females. If the males are a bit earlier. So if anyone is keen and free, Preston, Iron Kingdom on Sunday at 11:30 for training. But guys, 2023, obviously the first thing is Season A is coming up. We've got a bunch of questions about Season A, and then we've got a bunch of questions about Season B and how to get ready for Season B. So let's kick it off with, we've got some questions about where should people be at right now if they're doing Season A, and then we can also talk about who we kind of have in our teams doing Season A. So I think the first show for Season A is around March, and I think it's this is for Victoria, the ICN Rookie Show, which is in about 8 weeks.
Yep.
And then pretty much the majority of all the other shows in majority of the federations are around about that kind of mid to late April, early May time period. So we're talking around about 13 to 18 weeks out.
17 or 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, roughly about that time period. So if someone's doing rookies and they're 8 weeks out, what should we be expecting right now? Should we expecting that they're starting to feel the pinch a little bit, and they probably most likely would have started their prep, probably December, November time period. So over Christmas break, they probably would have had to diet down. Is anyone in your team doing that show? And if they're not, did anyone in your team have to start prep during that Christmas period for Season A?
Yeah, no one. I've got no one in my team doing that show, but I've got Season A competitors who started prep well before that Christmas period, and I saw a couple of posts recently of people like just entering into a prep or, New Year, time to get lean, things like that. And I feel like for a lot of people, maybe they've left it a little bit too late. I'll say like most of my team kicked off, and I've only got a small team for Season A, big team for Season B, but most people kicked off like in that October period. And we spoke about making allowances for that period, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit more detail later, but definitely everyone should have been well and truly into prep at that point, and you may have just come out of like potentially like a diet break or some higher days through the Christmas and New Year period. But I would expect anyone, certainly for that March show, that you would have been in a deficit for a little while already, and should be reasonably close to where you want to be stage wise, and knowing that most of the three of us like to try and have athletes ready for goes well, with 3 or 4 weeks to spare. That would mean that in essence, you should be 4 to 5 weeks away from where you want to be stage wise. So I would have hoped that you would have absolutely started your diet by now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually really excited about this year because if we think about it, last year was the first full year of not being interrupted by any lockdowns, right?
And it was
So
big.
the people that competed last year, essentially their off season was the year before, which was an interrupted year.
Yeah.
So then anyone that's competing this year, 2023, you would assume that all of last year they had ample amount of time and freedom to put all their energy and effort into their off season with no interruptions. So we should be seeing some pretty epic physiques in 2023. Like, I'm really freaking pumped for it. I know I've got a bunch of people in the team that I'm excited for, and I know you guys have heaps of people in your team, especially for season B. But Scotty, do you have anyone for season A, and were they dieting over the Christmas period?
Yeah, I've got a couple of boys that will be doing the Melbourne show, will be their first show. And again, but those guys started prep late September, knowing that we wanted to make allowances over that Christmas period. Some of them had a holiday that was booked in, and so to ensure that they could still do that, have that, we could feed them a bit more during that time so they could fill up their cup, and then still obviously meet our timeline requirements for that first show. So that'll be our first show, and then I think the second show might be, I think after the week after the Melbournes, I think is your show.
Yeah, 23rd. Yep, next week.
Yeah.
23rd. So that's 15 weeks.
Yeah. No, I think less than, or as in this weekend it'll be 14, won't it? Because it's 13 weeks.
This weekend will be 14. Yeah.
13 weeks out for these boys this weekend. So, so that's where my boys are at with that. And then I've only got a handful of people for season B as well. I've got a big number of athletes that will compete in 2024, and that also probably partly lines up because I'm personally competing this year. In terms of the way it was mapped out, if I had to choose, when there was an athlete who was like, oh, I could do season B or I could maybe do season A 2024, then in my mind it was probably better to maybe move them across just so that I'm not having to manage a huge team in prep whilst also trying.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
Yeah, that's
hey,
awesome.
can I just ask for anyone who's watching on YouTube, can we take 10 seconds to just look at Scott's arm? What the fuck is going on there? He looks,
Scott's biceps. He's wearing a singlet.
he looks huge.
Oh, I'm just fucking sitting down.
No, you look jacked as fuck, man.
I'm not even flexing, bro.
You look swole as fuck.
It's probably just the heating here, man. It's flattering the physique. It's very warm in my gym.
Just take the compliment, bro.
The fan's on in the background. There's no AC in my office, and I'm just hoping the aircons are on, but I'm just hoping that it starts to blow some cool air through here.
I tell you what, it's blowing in there some gains, man.
It's very warm at Powerhouse.
Definitely made some gains, bro. Definitely made some gains.
You look amazing, bro.
Thanks, man.
He's so shy and just modest.
He doesn't take compliments. Guys, whenever you see Scott next, walk up and just pay him a compliment.
Yeah.
You know how to give him more than anyone. The first thing I think you said to me when we went to that Powerhouse meet is like, how the fuck you want a mini cart and you look enormous? I was like, thanks.
Thanks, bro.
True, man. It's true. I like to tell people how I feel and what I'm seeing. You just never know sometimes, man, who just needs to something that people are thinking but no one's saying. It's like 20 people walked past you and thought exactly what I thought. Fuck, Scott looks good, but no one said anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be the one to actually tell you.
Yeah. And that is a really good point because, as we know, like in this industry, everyone compares themselves to other people, and they think sometimes people think negatively of themselves and they have bad body image issues. So if you see someone in the gym and you reckon they look good, go up to them and tell them, because I'm sure they probably don't have the amount of confidence that you think they do, even if they are in good shape. So I think that's a really good one. And I'm going to keep complimenting you, Scotty.
Yeah. I've got this thing lately, man. Every time I go to a new gym, where I just try and say something really nice to one brand new person.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's not something that I've come up with. There's a couple of people I follow on social media, specifically on TikTok, who have it made their lives better by just trying to spread as much joy as possible. And their thing is every time they go to the gym, even though they train at the same gym, is meet someone new and give someone new a compliment and just try and boost their confidence in the gym, whether they're a massive bodybuilder or a brand new person. Just one basic compliment to make that session better for that person. And in turn, it's going to make that session better for you too.
I love it.
Bro, it's funny you say that. I do not a verbal compliment, but I do the same thing, but with just a smile in terms of the first three people, it's again something I probably saw it somewhere on social media, but just if I'm in public, it's a stranger I've never seen. If I'm walking past, just to make eye contact and just smile, it could be for whatever, because that person could be having just the shittest day ever, and there's nothing like, it's just something so easy to be able to do. Maybe they smile back and then they feel good, because these days, if you're constantly around negativity, then you'll just start to just flourish in that environment. You'll be negative versus, if you're being positive. And I think that's why our circle is extremely particular. I know that's why I value it so much, because there's just nothing but positivity. To constantly be around that, it brings you up more and more. If more people did that, then there'd be less sad people, and people would be more productive, they'd be happier. And it doesn't require any talent to just give someone a smile, like you said, pay a compliment forward to someone else. If everyone does that, then obviously, everyone will start in a better place. And
it costs nothing, like,
100%.
And you know what, man? It's actually like, I had one example where someone kind of did it to me. So I was doing some RDLs at Good Life, and, I was getting up to like a top set. It was reasonably heavy, Good Life, not like a bodybuilding gym. And I just had like a young kid come up to me and just say, how long did it take you to get to that weight, man? And my next set, man, I was like a bull, because I'm like, he came up to me, made the effort, wanted to ask questions. So I'm like, I'm going to turn it on for this set. And I'm like, what about if I could do that with someone else, and someone else could do that with someone else? Would everyone have better sets?
For sure.
Like, fuck it. I'm going to do it at least once every time.
I love it. We're going to do it this Sunday when we go to the gym. We're going to do it.
No, we're going to do it Friday night. I'm going to compliment Scott on his subo eating.
And give those first three people a smile.
Yeah, that's it.
There's actually a mindset tip that I've given out to a couple of people in my team that I thought that needed it. And it's whenever you have a negative thought or say something negative, follow up it with, but luckily, and then add something positive.
Yeah.
Right?
So can that be like not even relevant to that thought, like just something positive?
Try to make it relevant. So try to see that what you're actually thinking as a negative isn't all negative.
Yeah.
Could you
give us an example? Yeah.
Yeah. So example is, I've gained heaps of weight and I'm fat, but luckily I'm strong as fuck and made gains.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, I'm not shredded anymore, but luckily I can have energy, I can sleep well, and I can be flexible. Like, try to think of, there's actually a positive to every single bad thing you think that is going on, right? So I've implemented that with a lot of people in the team to change their mindset. And what's good too is, use it for people around you. So if someone's always talking negative or they're on a downer, and if they say something, they go, "Oh, it's raining, I really want to go outside. But luckily,
I've got shitloads I have to do at home, so I'm
and you'll find that also people around you will stop talking negative to you, because you're always going to flip it around on them, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really
smart thing, man. It's a really good thing. I feel like, for a lot of us, if you're around someone who's constantly negative, what you end up doing is finding ways to actually separate yourself or distance yourself.
Yeah.
But utilizing this method may actually make them flip their attitude instead of you having to change your behavior.
Exactly. Yeah. And what you'll find is, they'll normally stop their snowball of negativity in front of you, because there may just be a complaint after a complaint after a complaint. But if you keep saying, but luckily after every complaint, they'll stop complaining.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting anywhere with you, firstly.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's not as bad as what it may seem, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So try it, guys. Give it a try to people around you, and even just give that own advice to yourself.
Yeah, it's good, man.
For sure. But back onto CMA. I don't know how we got down to that. But okay, so let's say majority of people are doing, the April, May shows. So they're as we said, 13 to 18 weeks out. They're probably in a position now where they're tracking everything meticulously. Everything is planned and prepped. They're measuring everything. They're having a step count they need to hit, or a cardio prescription. They have to follow a training program meticulously. They're having to do check-in photos. They're having to pose, make sure they're practicing posing, making sure that they've got a posing coach. If you think unless you think you're confident enough not to have one. So you should be ticking the boxes every day. You might be having to sacrifice on some of the social things you're going through at the moment, because at the moment the sun's out and a lot of people want to get out and about, and sometimes that involves socializing around food. So
Yeah.
you may have to navigate those situations, or maybe do things a little bit differently. Picnics in the park, bring your own food with you, something that I've been doing. So there are ways to definitely navigate social situations. But with your team at the moment, are you finding any struggle points that people are having at the moment this early in their prep?
You want me to go, Scott?
Oh, you can go, bro. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I would say that this season, obviously, the team's been a little bit smaller for season A, so not as many to have the potential to have difficulties. But I would say it's been pretty smooth sailing this season. Everyone for me at the moment that is doing season A is kind of in a big dig phase. So we use that Christmas period to kind of have, some potential for a couple of refeeds, and we're kind of using this next 5 to 6 weeks to have that final massive push before we have a tiny little break again, and then one more smaller dig.
Yeah.
So this is the tough bit now. This is really what's going to separate, the average from the elite.
Yeah.
Not to say that everything up until this point hasn't been difficult, but now's when the real work starts. That sort of, I don't have anyone for March, so let's say for me, everyone's around that sort of 12 to 13 week mark. So potentially you've already been in a prolonged deficit for, anywhere from 8 to 12 or 13 weeks, depending on the athlete. So, now's when they're really going to start to feel it. Body fat's low. I mean, I got one athlete who you guys know about, who's done absolutely amazing. This is our third show we've prepped for. We haven't competed in any because we keep getting pregnant. But yes, she's amazing, right, Emily? But she's 19 kgs down. We've been prepping for a long, long time in reality, with lots of breaks along the way. But this is the first opportunity for us to actually get on stage. So, in essence, this last block, as you know, the leaner you get, the harder it becomes. To be able to liberate some of that fat tissue gets harder and harder. So for anyone prepping for season A, now's really the time for you to knuckle down and just shut out all the distractions and all the noise, and just follow and adhere to that plan and tick all your boxes every single day, because those little things accumulate to that end result, that successful end result.
Yeah. I think with my team, the only thing that is, normally season A brings on first-time competitors, normally. So a lot of people that I have in my team that are competing are first-timers. And I think the biggest struggle, or the thing they need to navigate the most, is that social situation. This is the first time they've ever prepped in their life. Not the first time they've ever done a training program, stuck to macros or whatever that may be, but it's the first time where they've had to say no, and they've had to change the way they approach things, and also see if they have that support around them during this time. It's the first time they've ever gone and had to be this meticulous in a process. So that's probably the one thing that they've not had to struggle with, but it's probably the biggest thing that they've had to utilize their energy on at the moment, as they start to get used to the fact that they're in prep. People around them need to understand they're in prep, and everything has to be tracked, measured, and they need to be pretty meticulous about things. So I think that's the biggest thing that people are kind of working on at the moment in the team is that, because if you're a seasoned competitor and have been through it before, you kind of know what to expect. But if you're a first timer, that's probably the biggest thing you're going to have to navigate. And you're really going to find out who your support system is. Really going to find out who they are.
Yeah, and you're right, man. All of my season A's are first timers. So spot on.
Oh, really? There you go. Yeah, yeah. And I love training first timers, because really you have no expectation, right? They've never been on stage before. It's just a massive accomplishment to get on stage and to look your absolute best. And then every single one of them will be super freaking motivated and keen to do it again. So season A is always fun. Definitely fun. How about you, Scotty? Anyone in the team that's hit some struggle points or having to spend a little bit more energy on than normal in their prep?
No, not really, to be honest. Again, I've only got one first timer who hasn't competed before, but everything's been pretty smooth sailing, to be honest. Again, I think everything from a coaching perspective, if you lay everything out and you're very transparent from the get-go, from the total approach of your periodization. For example, if you're having conversations like we're having conversations in our check-ins this week about what the next 4 weeks is going to look like, and then almost even touching in the next 4 weeks after that, because that's when we're going to start to trial to do this, and so on. It's not like they're just waiting every week, what do we do now, what do we do now? So they actually have a little bit of, I guess, foresight in terms of this is what I can expect here. This is roughly where we're anticipating I need to be at this point. So that way they're not so lost, and they've got that understanding of the entire process, versus if they're just waiting on each week, how do I know if I've done good this week, or is 200 grams going to be really, really good? Like you might have someone who might only have 2 kilos of fat mass to lose and they've got 10 weeks to go, and they only lost 150 grams, and they're stressing and they're having shit sleeps and they're getting cranky, when in reality, if you've had the conversation and said, well, just so that you know, as we get leaner, our required rate of loss is going to be lower. We're not looking for 500 to 800 grams a week anymore. Then at least that way they understand that process. And again, it's more enjoyable. So, so far, so good. All of our boys are well and truly on track and ready to go. And like you guys, I'm super excited, man. I can't wait. It's going to be good.
Yeah, so I think the thing, MT, that you said, which is a really good point, is, when you go through that first time and process it from a coaching point of view, it is really an enjoyable process, because a lot of the changes you're making and the feedback you're giving in check-ins, you haven't said that to them before. It's not a seasoned competitor that you've said it 3 times already over the last 4 years. It's new information. It's new to them, and they really soak it in and take it on board and appreciate it and then go and utilize it. So it's definitely very rewarding.
Yeah, and they learn so much. Like their learning curve is massive during that time. They learn so much about not only the process, but themselves and how mentally tough they are. Yeah. So, yeah, first time competitors.
I coach your first time, it's super important that you don't just give them their macros and go through it, because if you are working with an athlete for the first time, the experience that they have with you and with their prep will ultimately determine whether they hang around in the sport or not. So if they have a really shit prep and you don't explain the process and make the process as enjoyable and as educational as you can, then the likelihood is that they might say, no, it's just not for me. When in reality, it could have been. There's so many awesome athletes who potentially get lost to the sport because they just have a really bad time. So,
good point.
And we take that role really seriously in terms of making sure that obviously they get on stage in the most optimal and holistic way possible, but also, enjoying the journey and the process.
Yeah, and it's a learning experience for the coach, because it is the first time you've ever coached that person for a show. So it's like a balancing act between making it a good experience, but knowing how far to push them and where their limits are, and also their reaction and their mindset to anything that may come up, and how to navigate those things. So it's definitely a learning experience for the coach too. And just like everything, every time you do a prep, you get better and better and better, and your coach gets better and better and better at coaching you too, right? So,
For sure.
And that's why we want people to stay in this sport for the longevity of it, right? Don't just do one show and be a one-hit wonder, because you can be so much better every single time, and that's what makes it so enjoyable and so fun, is that you are continuously improving every time you compete, and you bring it to a new level every single time. And that's why we say to people, don't wait so long to compete and only compete when you think you're perfect, because you're never going to be perfect. You need to go through preps to see where what your best is, so you know what to beat the next time around, right? So yeah, first timers, I absolutely love it. But one thing that we do talk about with first timers a lot is picking federations and picking divisions, right? So one of the questions that we got was, how do you know the judging criteria across different federations across different states? And as we mentioned in one of our previous podcasts, I think it might have been the last one last year, we spoke about how the judges are our customer, right? And we need to know what our customer wants to buy, and we're presenting a product in front of them. So it's really up to the coach to analyze what the customer is buying, so who's winning, right? And really to understand what they're looking for. And it changes all the time. Like, it evolves every year. So this year, for that first show, I'm really going to be looking at the winners, like really going to be looking at how people are being placed to see what the standard is being set for every single show. So if you're a first timer and you're not competing in this very, very first show coming up, I definitely recommend you to go to it. Or if you can't be there, definitely review all the photos and really try to analyze it and see who's winning, who's not winning, and see what the judges are going for, right?
Yeah.
So you can start to understand what your customer wants across all the federations and all the divisions. But it is something that we definitely talk to our clients about a lot is we think you're going to be suited to this division in this federation. But I also always recommend doing multiple feds. So spread yourself across a little bit. Obviously, all of them look at slightly different things, have slightly different criteria. They are very similar, but there are some slight differences. So the coach needs to know what they are. But also you want to give your client an opportunity to experience different divisions because they are different in the experience that you do have. Is it something that you guys, or even MG, that you have with your clients? And I know obviously you're the promoter for A and B Victoria, but you just don't put all your clients in that show only. You spread them across other federations too.
Absolutely. And like if you look at last season, we pretty much competed in everything. We went into state for other feds and went to nationals and all sorts of stuff. So, but I will say this, that information, that criteria typically is actually obtainable in a document or on a website in most feds. For example, if you come to the A and B posing workshop, as MT knows, I will give you a printout of the criteria for every division and what the judges are specifically looking for in terms of, X-frame, symmetry, these types of things. So, and, that's probably available in every Fed somewhere, whether it's be on their website or in an actual document that you can print. So, but the best piece of advice I think that MT said there is, if you can't go to the show, definitely have a look at what the judges are looking for, and don't assume that it's going to be the same every single season, because federations evolve, people like different looks, judging panels change, these types of things. So set yourself up for success by having an understanding as to what the judges are looking for. If you're competing in a specific Fed, you may be able to obtain the criteria for that federation. Certainly for A and B, that's something I can provide for you. I'm sure it's the same with others. And make sure that your coach is across what the judges are looking for in each division so that you can stand up there with confidence, knowing that you're sitting in the right place. Because I can, hand on heart, say I've seen people in the wrong division that would have won a different division had they been placed correctly.
Yeah. And you raise a good point. Go to workshops.
Sure.
The promoters are there. They can see you. You can ask them. They'll tell you, what division do you think I should go in? They'll say fitness, bikini, whatever that may be. And I know for you and for A and B and for yourself and for Jen and even for NBA with Stu and even some in ICN, you can DM these promoters and send them photos of yourself and be like, what do you think is the category I should be in? And they'll tell you. Of course they want to tell you, right? They want you to do well and they want you to have a good experience and fit the category that you're best suited to. So do your research, but also be proactive in trying to seek out information and get the answers that you want. And obviously you got your coach there too, right? Your coach should know and they should be able to answer those questions too. So that's season A. We've also got some questions about season B. So if people are wanting to do season B, what should they be doing right now at the moment? Scotty, if they're wanting to do season B, should they be in a fat loss phase at the moment, cutting off the Christmas calories?
It just depends on, how you have decided to manage your annual periodization in terms of, everyone knows that I wrapped up my pre-prep phase before Christmas so that I would then, like I am now, entering just a gain-taining phase. So just slowly, food is way back up, but just slowly making rates of gain. So instead of, when you're in the off-season, you might be looking to gain anywhere from 0.5% to 1% of body weight a week, depending on where you're at in your bodybuilding journey, versus if we're in that gain-taining phase, you might only be looking at, say, 100 grams to 250 grams max a week. You might give yourself this is how I refer to it, as a bandwidth. It might be like you've got 2.5 kilos over the next 3 months. And so you're managing that rate of gain so that you still start prep in a place of strength. Because otherwise, if you diet off all of this fat mass and you do your pre-prep phase, but then over the next 12 weeks, you might have lost 10 kilos in your pre-prep phase, but if you put on 7 or 8 of them in that next bulking phase, then you just wasted that pre-prep phase, but you might as well have just been continuing to maintain. So I think typically people will either do it earlier, and I think it depends on knowing your athlete. If your athlete is someone that responds metabolically pretty well, where they can then bring food back up and they're in a position where you know they're going to be able to successfully maintain, then you would run that. On the other side of the fence, you might, which I've also applied before, and I have a couple of athletes I'm doing that with, that they will start their pre-prep phase in the next week or so, and that's a 6 to 8 week aggressive phase, depending on the athlete, and then they'll maintain for 4 to 6 weeks, bring food back up, and then they'll start their contest prep. Again, depending on the athlete, the division, like if you've got a bikini competitor and they're staying in reasonable shape, they might only need to do a 14-week contest prep. But if I've got a men's fitness guy who needs to be shredded from head to toe, a classic physique guy, or a men's physique guy, they need to be peeled head to toe. So they're going to be, doing likely a 28, sometimes even longer, 28-week contest prep. So it just depends on the person, but ideally you will have wrapped up your pre-prep phase, or you would be in the middle of it / just commencing it, depending on when you're going to start your contest prep.
All right, so let's just say, for instance, for a female, they're probably going to do a 16 to 20 week prep, depending if it's fitness to bikini, depends what it is. So, their season B comp prep's going to be around the May time period, right? Give or take a month or a couple of weeks here or there. But let's just say they are a first-time competitor, and maybe they haven't been coached, or they just maybe started to get a coach, or it's their New Year's resolution, and they're like, "Yay, this year I'm going to be a competitor." So they've come out of Christmas, they've gained a little bit of weight, right? And they come to you, and you assess what they've been doing, and they've been under-eating, right? They've overeaten during Christmas, but now they're under-eating. So they've gained weight, but now their calories are all the way down. What do you really want to do from now until that May time period? Is it a sense of, well, the fat gain is the fat gain, we'll sort it out later, and at the moment we need to make sure that you build your metabolism up and you actually build the shape of your physique so you're competitive? Or are we trying to cut that fat mass off now and then go into a build and then into a prep? What do you reckon, MG? Sorry.
Personally, like everything Scott said before, 100% spot on, right? I think the most important thing would be establishing a metabolism point, because what you're going to end up doing is running out of tools to use, and the body just will refuse to respond. You're better off starting prep a little bit earlier than you thought you were going to start prep, or doing a pre-prep phase. Scott's just completed one himself, rather than running low calories as a starting point to clean off, the little bit of added extra kilos you did at Christmas. You're not setting yourself up for a efficient or successful prep doing that. So in my opinion, Scott, you spoke about this last year, about just getting someone out of their own way. It's like just what's on your body, what you've accumulated in fat mass over Christmas is what it is. It's there now. The most important thing that we can do is build lean tissue and get your metabolism to a point where we're going to be able to actually get lean when the time comes that we need it, versus sitting and being a little bit uncomfortable with the composition that we're holding, rather than just cleaning it up so that we feel good about ourselves now because of the lack of adherence we had over the period.
Yeah. It's a difficult conversation to have, especially with females, because of the body image issues and being uncomfortable. But you just have to be a party pooper sometimes and just be like, guys, we're going to clean this up later. We've got to do what really matters at the moment, and that's to build your metabolism up, get it to where it needs to be, and actually build your physique. So when you do shred down, right, there's actually something there that's competitive. So,
for sure.
But if they have gained some fat mass over that Christmas period, for example, and you're like, we do want to restore some metabolic capacity, and we want to try and, I guess, as you said, we want to rise maintenance calories so we can get to a place where actually we have some runway to actually commence a comp prep. You can also, and I have found that this has been very helpful, and sometimes, recomposition, again, we've spoken about how difficult that can be, but habitually making some changes to someone, it might be like they might be following 1,200 calories, and they might be like, oh, I just don't seem to lose weight on that. But I can guarantee you there's nearly always some miscellaneous eating or snacking there, the meal out that doesn't get tracked. If you say to someone, okay, well, that's where you were, let's say I'm going to take you to just a random number, 1,600, this is where we're going to be. But one of the things that I want you to do is I don't want you to eat out unless it's been cooked by you and by your hands and that you've tracked it. I don't want you to do that. And let's run these intakes and then let's see where we go. It's like, oh my God, my body's just responded so well with this. And I'm eating more food and I'm losing weight. Well, it's like, well, are you eating more food or are you perhaps eating a greater volume of food that is perhaps less calorically dense? You know, that meal that you're having out or that dessert that you have that you perhaps don't want to track or you don't really think there's anything in that, or a handful of cashews, all those bits and pieces add up. So, for example, you might say we want to try and add some more food in and we're going to build calories, but we can also perhaps clean up some of those lifestyle things that we're going to need to do when we start a comp prep. For example, we're not going to eat out. We're going to cook our own food. We're going to make some perhaps some better lifestyle changes. Perhaps you go to bed earlier and you prioritize your sleep. You prioritize your hydration. So doing those things as well will, again, this is anecdote through my experience, 90% of the time you'll see a fat loss result whilst also being able to make that increase in calories. Unless someone's just been put through the ringer and they're metabolically just, you know, beat up because they've just been thrashed on low calories for a long period of time, that would probably be the outlier in that scenario. But I found that usually will go a long way in terms of doing that, but also reminding the athlete that if your weight goes up a kilo overnight, like unless you've consumed 7,700 calories above maintenance, you haven't gained a kilogram of fat mass. Mm-hmm. So it's likely food volume and it's likely water retention as a result of increased sodium. So just going back to those sort of things, I think, and in embedding that, and remember that, as we just said before, sometimes you just got to get someone out of their own way. Because if they don't, and you start a contest prep on poverty food, A, it's going to be a shit time, and B, you're just going to run out of rope.
Yeah. I saw one of my team sent me a really funny video today. It's like, it's a video. It's like the people, I can't lose weight on 2,000 calories. And what it is, it's this bodybuilder guy, and he's got his scales, and his coach's meal plan's there. And it's 200 grams chicken, 200 grams rice. So he's got 200 grams of rice, puts the chicken on, it's 260. So he picks it up, takes a bite, 60 grams, eats the 60 grams, puts it back on the scale, 200. Beautiful. Slicing up a banana, it says 100-gram banana. Puts the banana on, it's 170. Slices 100 off, eats the 70. Perfect. That's 100 grams.
Nice. Love it.
Like, it doesn't count because the scale didn't show it, so it's not really.
Yeah, 100%. So the other scenario, so we talked about season A, we talked about season B. The other scenario is the people that want to do season A and season B, right? So, you know, that person that's like super ambitious and wants to do 2 seasons, right, in 1 year. So talk to me about a scenario where you just would never recommend it and a scenario where it's potentially possible. Now, I know it's probably going to be division dependent because a bikini woman, female, is probably going to be a little bit different if they want to do season A to season B compared to a bodybuilder that gets super shreds and they want to do season A to season B. So, MG, do you ever have to have those conversations? And 100%. Do you ever have scenarios where you will allow people to do season A and season B and when you won't?
Yeah, I definitely don't have anyone this season doing that, and it's not something that I ever would really support. But just for the point of like the body needing a rest and wanting the 2 facts of the body needing a rest and just wanting to come back better. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Now there is sort of one example I would give where I had an athlete who competed in season A. We did a little bit of a shortish prep. We decided to do the show at the end. In the end, we did well, but we just missed the marker. We placed high but didn't win, and the feedback was we needed to come back a little bit leaner. Because we hadn't been prepping for that long, we decided we would do season B because all we really needed to do was get leaner. So we maintained our position and then started again. We didn't have to prep for as long this time, and we did season B and did really well. So that's the only example I can give from personal experience where, you know, I thought it was okay and acceptable in that instance. Again, it's just one athlete. It's literally one example. But
was it bikini, fitness, sports?
It was sports.
Sports, okay, yeah.
Sports, yeah. But if, you know, in really, you know, any other division, if you've been dieting for a long period of time, you need a break. Your body needs a break. All that down regulation needs some recovery. And if you are trying to improve in terms of a muscularity position, the in-between season period is not enough for a non-enhanced competitor.
Yeah. If you can be an absolute robot and just be able to handle the whole prepping for most of the year, and you can do that mentally, I still think physically your biggest factors are going to be is your metabolism going to be able to take it? And do you need to improve from a muscularity perspective between the shows? They're going to be your two massive determining factors of whether you can do it. Now, I've had scenarios where I've had people do that because, yes, their metabolism has bounced back and they were already at the top end of their muscularity for their division. So all they need to do was just get a bit leaner. Fine. And they were like super adherent. They're a robot. They loved it, right? But I always say to them is we're going to make the decision 4 weeks post season A show, right? Because everyone's super ambitious and then they do a show and that couple of weeks afterwards when they realize how hungry, how tired they are, how they placed, how they actually probably want to spend more time in improving, they might change their mind about wanting to do back-to-back seasons. Yeah. How about you, Scotty? Do you ever need to have that conversation?
I haven't, but I think for me, the only thing that would perhaps warrant putting yourself through that, if you had an athlete that was so close to getting their pro card, and they, for example, had all the right boxes, but they just, someone just turned up who was just a genetic freak and they just picked them, and they're in the best condition they've been in from a lifestyle perspective. It suits them better. This is their year because whether it's family, whatever, it works better for them. And they understand that obviously in order to do that, you're going to have to follow a recovery diet. We're going to put some fat mass on straight away. Like no fucking around. There's no trying to just try and stay lean. And this is the amount that we need to gain. We need to stay within those parameters. And then at this stage, this is going to be, it might be like 16 or 18 weeks out from when your next show is. That's when we're going to pull the trigger and we're going to go again. And if they're around that mark, and again, the athlete and from a maturity perspective as well, they have that ability and they know what they're putting their body through and what they're doing. And again, all the other boxes are ticked. They're in good metabolic health. And again, they're just so close and they know that they can, that it is in, it's in reach, so to speak. Then I would be open to that if those things were aligning. But if it was someone who was, if you're not right at that top end, I don't personally see the trade-off as being worthwhile. You'd be better off just, let's feed you up, get healthy again, get into the improvement season, make the improvements you need to be, that you need to make, in order to be able to take that next step. And sometimes there are those people who are just right on the fringe. But if you're right on the fringe and you had to thrash your body to get there to be right on the fringe, then the reality is, unfortunately, it's probably not going to be an option for you. But if you were someone who was feeling awesome, in good metabolic health, and you really, really want to do this, then by all means, it's a possibility. But other than that, for me, I probably couldn't really see a reason as to why it would be worth the trade-off for that.
Yeah. And then the next thing is that most people are probably going to set this goal for 2023 is to get their pro card. So one of the questions we got asked was, how do you get it? Like in what federations, what are the criteria to get a pro card? So I guess for you, MG, for A and B, how do you get a pro card? What shows is it on offer?
Yep. So A and B is a little bit different. We have the ability to earn a pro card both at the state and the national shows. So winning at nationals, which is pretty standard across all FEDS. However, if our head judge, if you show up on the day and you have an incredible physique and the judges think that you are pro worthy, and by that I mean you would stand in a pro show lineup and place in the top 3, then the judge has the ability to hand you a pro card. Which I like because it definitely makes it more exciting to attend a regional or a state show, knowing that, the athletes that are coming have the potential to become a pro on that day.
Yeah.
And it's not just the overall winner. It's definitely on judges' merit. We handed out a couple last year, but not to every division. So that's how you can win it with us. And I know some FEDs are similar, but I would say as a general rule, you have to win at nationals, place first at nationals in your division.
So that's the overall, to win your overall in your division.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Most federations are like that. NBA's like that. An overall win at a national show can be a season A national show, could be a season B national show.
Yeah.
ICN is similar too. It's a win at in your height class in an open division at a national show, right? That's for ICN. And I believe the other feds are the same. So IFBB is the same. It's an overall win in your division. And even WBFF is the same. It's an overall win in your division. Sometimes they can give it based on merit too.
Yeah.
If someone has got a pro card in one division and then you compete against them in another division and you become second, you automatically get that pro card because they already just received theirs. So they also have that too. So I think ICN's the only different one where it's like per height class at the nationals, but mostly everyone else is an overall win at a national show, whether that be a season A or a season B national show. So it's definitely competitive to get a pro card for sure. And then we have some federations.
And I like that, man. I like that it's different with every fed. I don't think there's any right or wrong way with any of them. I just think investigate the federations that are out there, have a look at what the criteria are, work out what you need to do to get a pro card if that's what you want to do, and just relentlessly hunt it down.
Yeah, I know also, and you can confirm this with AMB, but AMB and NBA allow pros from any other federation to compete as a pro also in their fed. And if they get a certain placing, if it's a top 3 or they win an overall, they automatically become a pro in the fed itself too. Is that right, MG? So if you're an NBA pro in fitness or ICM pro in fitness and you go to AMB and you compete in the
no, you can't
in their pro show?
You can't.
No? Doesn't work like that?
Not with us.
In NBA, you can.
Yeah, not with us, no.
Okay.
No, you have to get your pro card with us.
Okay. Before you do it.
Yeah.
I know with NBA you can. So an NBA will accept a pro card winner or someone that has a pro card in AMB or ICN. They can compete in their pro show. And if they place, I believe it's top 3, they automatically become an NBA pro. Yeah. So they would do it that way. So there's some intricate rules that you can definitely investigate, and they are on the website, or you can definitely just DM the promoters and they'll tell you all about it.
Well, when people asking us to organise a multi-fed super show last year.
Oh yeah, what were we going to call it?
I can't remember.
I can't remember what we're going to call it. It's like, yeah, that's right. To get every single pro together to compete in one massive show.
Yeah.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll ever happen.
Just too hard, yeah.
I think the federations would allow it. It's just
logistically, I reckon it is that hard. I just don't know.
It's hard. I don't think
that
hard.
Maybe of the same mindset of being on the same page.
It's the pro of the pros. It won't be hard to get everyone to agree to do it and to promote it and to get the show organized. It's just like, okay, but who judges it? And if we try to get the federations together to all judge it together, that's where it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I say, speaking as a promoter, it's hard. It's way harder than you think. Yeah, to organise it would just be way too hard. Yeah. And then you got to think of like the monetary side too, right? Because what if I bring in 7 pros and Scott, you run the next fed, you've got 13 pros competing and MT brings in only 3 from his fed, right? So you're all bringing it, but the 6 that I brought in win a lot of them because they're better quality, but you brought in 13 who paid more. It's like, well, it's just such a hard thing to sort. Not to mention that, not all the feds see eye to eye already. Yeah. And the criteria are all different. Yeah. And then, as you said, who would judge it? Yeah.
We'll judge it. We'll all judge it.
I love it.
I think the good thing is that, people now are cross-competing. So you're getting people that are pros in multiple federations. Yeah. So therefore they can go in multiple lineups against all different pros. And if that'll be all, if you're so good and you win your overall pro in NBA and your overall pro in ICN, you can call yourself the best of the best for sure. 100%. All right, boys, we're going to wrap it up there, but I'm so happy that we got the first one back and done. And I'm looking forward to Suvo's this Friday and then catching up for training on Sunday. Yeah. And just kicking this off and just having an absolutely awesome 2023 for us boys all individually, for the podcast, and for everyone out there, for all the competitors. I can't wait to go to as many shows as I possibly can. I'm going to try to also travel interstate and go to some other shows too, because I want to be there for some. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. I can't wait. And obviously Scotty is stepping on stage this year at Season B. So we're going to be there for that. And yeah, I cannot wait. It's going to be super exciting.
You'll be making his rice cake with jam while I'm slapping his skin with the tan. We agreed.
Oh, I can injecting him with sodium.
Can't wait.
It'll be the best.
It's going to be. And remember what we said. Go up to someone in the gym and make them smile.
Yeah.
That's
done. Goal for the week.
That's
all right,
it.
boys. Thanks for that. And I'll chat to you soon.
Look forward to it.
See you guys.
Take care. See you, boys.